You've worked long days for years and years to get to the point where you're finally producing and mixing bands full time. You used to have a day job, but no more. You told the boss to get lost, and now you can fully support yourself from audio. Take a moment, pat yourself on the back. This is really big. It was hard to achieve and took a long time. Lots of sacrifice. And just remember, if it were easy, anybody could do it. But be careful, because there's a monster lurking just below the surface that can cause serious damage to your recording career and possibly even completely sink it. Overbooking, or as I like to call it, the curse. I call it the curse because it's like one of those 80s horror movies where the guy is granted one wish and it always backfires on him. And I'm sure at some point you've wished for more work. Wish that you were busy 24/7 with clients hitting you up. And just like in the movies, if you ever get your wish, it can end up burying you if you're not careful. You end up spread way too thin, blowing deadlines, and sometimes even taking shortcuts in terms of quality. Bad news. And look, I get it. Last year you were delivering pizza, this year you're delivering mixes. No matter what, you do not want to go back to the real world. And so you figure you're going to strike while the iron is hot. I mean, who knows if people will want to book you a year from now, right? So you say yes to every project that comes in. You underestimate how long it will take to finish each project. You don't have a bulletproof scheduling system in play. And so inevitably, you end up double booking clients, and little by little, mixes get later and later past the due date. You really don't mean for it to be this way, but all the stress is really wearing you down, resulting in half-assed work and disappointed clients because they're not getting what they expected out of you. And on top of that, you're feeling completely burned out and like you want to quit. Like I said before, I speak from experience here. In 2011, my bookings went from literally zero to working on 5 to 8 bands per month to different capacities. I would be doing edits for one producer, mix engineering for another, while producing a band on my own, mixing something else, and saying yes to more and more projects. I wasn't being greedy, I just had no schedule management skills, and I hated saying no. Add to that an ingrained fear of things completely falling apart, and you can begin to see how I hate feeling like I'm letting people down. In my older, wiser age, I've realized that you're actually letting people down by overbooking yourself, because that leads to blown deadlines and lower quality work, which doesn't help anyone, not you or your clients. But back to the story. This intense workload worked perfectly. Well, at first, it worked until a few wrenches were thrown in the equation, such as a singer lost his voice, couldn't complete his tracks, and had to return when I already had another client booked. Or the band I was mixing and making great progress with went on tour, and suddenly getting mix notes from them was like pulling teeth. It slowed the project down to where I was having to do their mix notes on other people's time. Add this all together over a period of years, and you have what I would like to call a clusterfuck. And it's a clusterfuck that could have been avoided. And in case you're wondering, I can tell you that from the client perspective, this sucks. Once upon a time, my band was working with the producer-mixer getting our first record finished. A few weeks in, he was asked to give a test mix for a big record. He didn't ask us for our blessing, and in hindsight, he should have. And we would have, of course, said yes. Instead, he just told us he was doing it, but he assured us it would only take a few days out of our total time. We were cool about it, we understood. This would have been a huge level up for him, and we didn't want to be the reason he didn't get it. But I think you know where the story is headed. The mixer went down the rabbit hole. One day became 2 days, then 3, then 10. 10 days of us just sitting there, out of town, getting more and more frustrated and feeling less like the guy even cared about our record. We felt like prisoners at that studio and just wanted to leave. This is a challenge that all producers go through in their first few years of being 100% pro. This is also a challenge that all producers who get past their first few years conquer. And I want to be super clear about one thing. I am not telling you to turn down work. Let me repeat that. I am not telling you to turn down work. Sure, maybe someday you'll get to a place where you have the luxury of picking and choosing your projects and making other people work around your schedule, but most of us aren't in that position, and I certainly wasn't. So here's a couple things you need to do to avoid saying no without overbooking yourself. 1, outsource as much as you need to. Engineering, mix prep, editing, anything is fair game here. You cannot be precious about it. You need to be ruthlessly disciplined about where you choose to spend your time. For example, I know guys who will outsource mixing everything but the vocals and the final layer of polish on the overall mix because they have assistants who they've trained to mix everything else exactly as they would have if they actually mixed it themselves. A lot of people have a hard time with this idea, but you've got to be open to it if you want to scale the amount of projects you can take on. You can't be greedy or overly precious about this. Find a great assistant or assistants that you trust 100% and delegate as much as you need to them. 2, get ruthlessly disciplined about time management. This is a whole topic which I'll go into more detail about in another video, but let me just say that the biggest problem I see is that most people are wildly optimistic about estimating how long something will take. Usually because they don't factor in the total amount of time things will take when they schedule things out. Let me give you a parallel from the airline industry. When you book a flight reservation, you might notice that usually the total itinerary time adds about 90 minutes to the total flight time. Meaning, for instance, if you fly from Atlanta to Orlando, the actual amount of time in the air is about 55 minutes, but your time on the plane will be 90 minutes, and your total trip time, including getting to the airport, security, etc., will be more like 4 hours. How often do you underestimate how much time you have to spend on a recording project? Did you factor in setting up mics, wrapping cables, transferring files, lunch, piss breaks, etc.? And another thing, don't schedule your sessions via Facebook conversations, late night texts, or whatever other random way your clients hit you up. This is how mistakes happen, and you end up inadvertently double booking yourself. Do you have a client calendar booking system set up like Acuity scheduling? If not, change that today. If you don't want to use Acuity, fine. Pick another one and use it, but you need to, trust me. I could go on about this for hours, but hopefully you get the point. As you level up your career, every moment counts, so make the most of every one. It's not about how many hours you spend in the studio, it's about what you get done. No more wasted time, sloppy mistakes, or disorganization. The bottom line is, guys, please don't try to be Superman. Saying yes to everything and telling yourself that you'll make it up by putting more hours in at the studio, I can tell you from my own experience and from seeing it happen countless times to others, it just doesn't work. You're just gonna dig yourself into a very deep hole that you may or may not get out of. If you wanna scale up your career, put some serious time and effort into nailing the 2 things, outsourcing as needed and leveling up your time management skills. That's the magic combination for breaking the curse of overbooking. And if you're really strong in both of these departments, you'll be able to take on way more work without digging yourself into the overbooking hole. We want to know what you guys think, so let us know in the comments below. Let's start a discussion and move our careers forward. I'm Eyal Levi. This is the Career Builder Show. Thanks for watching.